Good day, high school math teachers of Temecula Valley Unified. This is Chris Shore, your math TOSA here at the district office. And I'm here just to share with you for about 8 to 10 minutes tips for using the re-engagement unit that is centered around the Smarter Balance practice test. So let's get right to it. You're going to find it on the district website, Blackboard intranet. So you can sign in there, click intranet. You'll see it's working, and it gets me in there. And then I go down here to educators, ESS, and 912 curriculum, and math. Now, being that the test is given the junior year and predominantly the kids are in Algebra 2, you will find it under the Algebra 2 unit. I will make sure that I just realized that that's going to have to be shared in others as well, because some of you may have juniors and not have access to that. So I'll make sure that gets put in the other folders as well. So you go to your second semester, Unit 4. You can pop this in anywhere. I think it's going to come up after statistics before rational functions. But now there is a CASP unit. We're going to go under resources. And if you look here, I put the UPO there as well. And you can also find it in the other file. But here is everything that you would need to do this particular unit. So you would look here first, and you'll see that the UPO is just a summary up here of everything that is to be done. And you'll see that it is a review of, 114 standards over 3 years. No wonder it's a good idea to pause and kind of have the kids do these things. You'll see this, the standards are clustered here. It's also given the clusters over here by the concepts. Runs on and on there. And so you'll see that. And then over here are the critical areas for Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2, and the frameworks for all three. So all that's in there in your UPO. And that's for you. That's not for the students. That's just for your edification. Everything else here is to be used with the students. Before I open these up, I want to share that the reason it's called a re-engagement unit, it's not a test prep. The practice test that we were encouraged to use by Smarter Balance, on which this was based, is not a test prep resource. And it's not necessarily what we're trying to do anyway. Re-engagement, I take that word from David Foster of the Silicon Valley Math Initiative, that rather than reteaching, which is just telling it the same way and having kids do the same problems, by re-engagement, we go back to the same topics, but the kids see it and experience those topics in a different way. So that's what's going to happen here. They're going to see problems they wouldn't see from our textbooks or some of our other resources and CIAs, and therefore we're going to consider this a re-engagement unit. It's going to be basically going from individual effort to group work. Not a lot of teacher-directed instruction. You've already hopefully taught everything that's going to be in here, or at least most of it. And so there's two purposes. One, we already shared. The students get a chance to re-engage rather than just be retaught. And then for the teacher, it helps us understand to the depth and the level of higher order thinking that the kids are expected to do with these standards. So with that said, let's take a look. There's a lot here. If you did all of these, I'd say it takes about 7 school days. So I'm going to go through it all, and then you gauge it as to how much time you have and whether you want to do both cycles, because there's material here to go through once with some practice test questions and then a performance task, and then there's a chance to go through it again. Once is kind of a group class activity, and another one more like a group quiz. Get the kids a little more focused. So you'll see here there's practice test compiled. So here's what was done. For the high school, all these questions are on the practice test. That document is like 34 pages. This was condensed to something like 12 or 13. There's approximately 30 questions, give or take, and it's all been kind of shrunk down, peeled off. A lot of the calculator images, interfaces, and graphic interfaces have been taken off. And so you'll see that here. There's A, B, C, D. There is some of these needed to have the graph, so they stayed. Others did not. say enter, and there's just a box kind of like it would look like on the computer. And so you'll see all that there. Instead of dragging, which they would do on the computer, the kids would just choose from the column and write over here. And so it lets them know a little bit about how it'll look on the test, but mostly it's just getting them familiar with or re-engaging with the material, but in a unique way, in questions that they will not have seen in our class. So that's the practice test. I suggest taking that. What I've done with this in my own Algebra 2 classes is that I would take this here and divide it up into 2 parts. So the kids would do about half on the first day. I need to back up here. I show the Smarter Balanced claims and state to the kids how they're going to be assessed. And in my class, we've discussed these throughout the year, but how the kids are going to be assessed not only on their ability to do the procedures and the algorithms, but to understand why. There's going to be questions on that, why things work. Problem solving, modeling, and data analysis. So those 2 get lumped together when it gets reported out on the test, and then their ability to communicate. So we want the kids to know what they're being assessed on, and that this is considered college and career readiness in our state. And so then I give them that test, and I give them, after that introduction on the claims, I'll give them about half the class period to do about half the questions. So if there's 30 questions, they're going to do 15 in approximately a half hour. My job at that point is to make sure that I'm working the room and that everybody is doing it, no one's slacking off. And then the second half, I'm going to put them together. Now, if you have a slower class and they only get 10, then this might stretch out to 3 days. But I'll give them those 15 and then a chance to work on it together. Then they're to go home and do the other 15 for homework. They come back the next day. They work in class on those 15 as a group at the front end. And at the end of the second class period, then from my working the room in both of those group situations, I can see which questions are most needed to be discussed. And so I will spend the second half of the second day going over any holes that I see that they may have. And I find the answers to these in the scoring guide. So this is what the actual document looks like. You go through here and each one has a page. So there's question number 1. Item number 1 tells you the claim, the domain, the target, the DOK level, the math content standard, and the math practice standard. Not all of them have a math practice standard, but those that do, you can kind of see what it looks like. So this is Smarter Balanced telling us what structure looks like. Math practice number 7, what that would look like on an assessment. So it shows us that. And all of them are in here. So you can look through there, offer the kids up the answer key. I wouldn't give them the 34-page document, maybe write them up. And write up those and pass them out or announce them, and then look for any questions. So that's 2 to 3 days on the practice test. Then I would go to, originally we had the speeding ticket in here. This was also a compressed performance task. It was multiple pages, many pages, brought down to just 3 or 4 here. But this was pieced together, very nice performance task. It's actually awesome. I love this task. And this would take the kids probably a day to work on it on their own, and then another day to work on it in class. Or you can send it home as homework at the end of the second day, and then they get to work on it in class together. But the group activity, the discourse, is key to them understanding and making sense of these things. So that happens there. And then I would go through what I've done in my own Algebra 2 classes, is then go through and give them this as a group quiz. And then they would get these and have a day or 2. They would probably take 2 if you're going to do all of the questions and all 30 of them in class. And then they would have that. And then they have a day to do this one. Now, this is brand new. This has been released by Smarter Balanced, Lights, Candles, Action. And it's a performance task where it's given a word problem, a diagram. And then you see that there's 5. And this one, I think there's 6. Yeah, 6 prompts that all deal with the candle. And so it's very nice. They have to do some analysis. That's theirs. If you want the answer to it, you go to the scoring guide. It also, at the end of the scoring guide, gives exemplars. It's many pages there, but at the end, it's really nice because it gives you exemplars of here's what a high-scoring kid would do on this particular performance task. And that's all there. So you give them 2 days to do this one. You give them a day to do that one. And if you want to have some kind of grade on that, keep them focused through the 5 to 7 days. if you're short on time or you don't need anything to score, you can just give them the first round and give them that there and see how they do. So I hope that you find this useful. If you have any questions, see Shore at TVUSD, and hope this helps. Take care. Bye-bye.